Joining me now in the studio with more on Natalie Portman and diaspora Jewry, our investigative journalist with Israel Hayom, Akiva Bigman, and Yariv Oppenheimer, a board member and former director of Peace Now. Thank you both very much for coming in.
Thank you.
So my first question, actually, I'll start with you, Yariv, is was this event more politicized by the fact that Netanyahu was there? Because, I mean, he's been there for previous ceremonies as well. Or was it more politicized by the fact that Natalie Portman made a big deal of not coming?
I think that if she would come, it was a statement saying, I'm supportive of this government, of this policy. And when she's not coming, she actually is saying the opposite. And I think that eventually she had no choice. Because if she were coming to here, and then she was starting to talk about the occupation and about the Israeli policy toward the people coming, the refugees coming from Africa, and about other controversial issue, people here will say, this is why you came, in order to say nasty things about us while you are getting our prize?
Therein lies the question too, because the prize is to award, a member of the Jewish community worldwide for instilling Jewish values and promoting Jewish values towards the next generation. That's basically straight off of their homepage. So what about coming to accept that prize, awarding her for her way of doing things in the world?
But if she feels that Israel is not going in the right direction, and Israel is not serving the ideological cause, the values of the progressive Jewish community around the world, especially in North America, so she will feel that she betrayed her values. Because if she's coming here, she's actually adopting and saying, okay, I'm fine with the Israeli policy. And this is, by the way, why Israel would like her to come. Because we would like to use her in order to show that we are, the greatest. And she cannot afford to herself to compromise about the values and to say, I'm going to dismiss all criticism about what's going on here. I'm going to come and to play the game. And I think that this was the very brave step that she took.
Okay. Well, I think she could have done exactly the opposite. Well, what happened today is she said she's not coming. Everybody understood this as some kind of a BDS move. She's against Israel. She wants to join the BDS. The BDS guys endorse her, and then she has to tweet and say, "No, I'm not on the BDS. I actually love Israel. I just oppose some policies." She could have done the opposite. She could have come to the prize, and then everybody will say, "Well, she endorses Netanyahu. She's for the whatever happens with illegal immigrants and with Gaza." And then she can tweet and say, "Well, I love Israel. That's my country. These are my people, but I don't agree with some of their policies." She could have done the exact opposite and be on the side of Israel and Israeli people, and then tweet the exemption instead of being again on the side of the other side, which is against Israeli people, and in the camp of the BDS guys, and then tweet the exemption saying she loves Israel.
I think she's ideological person, and this is the reason why she's taking this risk of not coming, because this is a risk to become a target for the Israelis and Jewish communities around the world, and she's doing a very brave action because of that. And if she would done the opposite, so people will say this nasty tweet was totally unacceptable. If you came here, that's enough. Don't come and then in our living room say bad things about the host.
I think you're wrong because of one main issue, because the community she's thinking about, which is relevant to her decision making, is not the Israeli public. It's the public in America, the democratic public, in Hollywood, her colleagues, and towards her public to come to Israel would have been a very brave move. Not to come, not to show up, and to sort of boycott Netanyahu and the right-wing government is not the brave. That's the common knowledge.
So I want to address that, because that's sort of what's at the heart of this argument here is, what are the Jewish values? What are Jewish values in general? Jewish values of the diaspora Jewry, and are we meeting these values?
I think that we are getting into the most controversial issue among the Israelis, and this is the question whether Israel is a Jewish state or a Jewish and democratic state. And when people abroad feel that we are only a Jewish state, that are going away from all the values that are creating the Jewishness of us, for example, human rights, mercy toward the other, equality, democracy, all this is going to the garbage. So people are saying, this is not the Israeli that I meant. This is not my value. This is not the way that I understand Judaism. I prefer to disconnect myself from this kind of Israel and to keep myself out there in America not connected in any form or way to Netanyahu and the values that Netanyahu represents, that are contradict the democratic values and the humanitarian approach to the world.
Here's the tragedy of American Jewry. A lot of the American elites, the Jewish elites, are progressive people. That's their view. That's their view of Judaism because it extrapolates from Reform Judaism and etc. Their view, their vision for Israel is a progressive vision, which is not shared by most of Israelis. That's very sad, it's very tragic, but most of Israelis don't share this vision. And as time goes by, the gap between the progressive vision of what Israel is supposed to be for these people and what the Israelis want their country to be is getting wider and wider. And this is what we see today. Natalie Portman is just a symptom of that. It goes deeper and wider. There's something to question is how many of the American Jews are part of this elite progressive vision of Israel and Judaism. Maybe that's not so much as we think. Maybe it's not so bad that this gap is getting bigger. Maybe it's not so terrible for Israel. A fact is that let's say like organization like Friends and organization like Friends of IDF had like they had the largest sum of donations this year. So it doesn't exactly mean that there's some kind of terrible crisis with the Israel state.
We should not forget the term universal values, and these are the issues that are creating the Jewishness as I understand it. And people in America, when see Israel and Netanyahu leading this process, going away from these kind of values, they feel that they have nothing in common with Israel. The opposite, Israel contradict what they believe in, and their only option is to say, you know what, leave me alone, I want to live my life here.
They never had anything in common with Israel, only the Holocaust made them, connected them to Israel for a generation and a half. No. And it's not surprising that this connection...
They support Israel as a Jewish democratic state, but not as a Jewish state.
Only in the 40s.
Well, we're gonna have to. We'll have to see how this unfolds and how the government kind of responds to this as it progresses. So, anyway, thank you both very much for coming in today.